Welcome back, everyone. In the last few lessons, we watched Andre explain to us all of the key things required in order for our application to be considered a progressive web app. Now, luckily for us, our application is built with Create React App, and as Andre explained, it's incredibly easy because Create React App has pretty much given us all of the tools required in order to adhere to those principles that make an application a PWA. Now, in order for us to actually do this, there's a couple things we have to first tweak about our application a little bit beyond what Andre explained. The reason for this is because we're also running an Express server, but we'll get to that. The first thing that we do need to do inside of our index.js is bring back that service worker. What we're going to do is we're just going to say import, and then we'll use that wildcard, the star symbol, to say everything. I want to import everything as the const service worker from the service worker file. So now that we have our service worker code, we're just going to say service worker.register at the bottom, which will register the service worker inside of our application, and that completely verifies the service worker requirement for our PWA. The other thing to remember, though, is that because we're using an Express server, whenever an application tries to load the service worker, it's going to be looking for a service worker.js file. So what we have to do in our server is that whenever the app makes a GET request for service worker.js, we will give them that service worker file. So inside of our server.js, we're going to do one thing. We're going to add inside of here a new app.get call, and we're going to say if they're ever requesting service worker.js, then with the request and the response as the function, we are going to say that with the response, we're going to send the file path.resolve, our directory name, combined with this ... meaning that we want to go up one because remember, we're inside of our client. We want to go to our build folder, and then we want to pass it the service worker.js file. So that's all we're trying to do. We're just saying whenever an application requests our application to provide something from this route, we're just going to go into our build folder, get the service worker.js file, and that's what we'll render and return. So that's all we need in order to add our service worker into our application. The next thing that we have to do is we have to ensure that our application's manifest is up to date with the icons that are required. We also can change some of the names here because our application is going to actually render this name or the short name in a mobile browser when we try and open it after we've downloaded it into our mobile device as a progressive web application. So how we'll do that is we can just name this whatever we want. I'm just going to call this one Crown Clothing with a capital C. And the long name, maybe I'll say something like Crown Clothing by Yihua. So luckily for us, Create React App generates us this favicon and it gives us the sizes that we need. And if you remember, I did give you a favicon.ico. This favicon is good enough to replace all of these image sizes inside of our manifest. So this one is fine. The only other thing we need to add is 2 more PNGs that are the sizes for the Android Splash as well as a 192 by 192 version that Android also needs. So what we can do is just import them in from the resources folder because I will provide both of those for you. So simply just drag them into your public folder. And what we'll do is create 2 new objects inside of our icons array. The first one is going to just point to the source, exactly like the same format we see with our favicon ico above there. We'll say crown 512 times 512.png, which is the name of this file. For sizes, we'll just say 512 by 512. And for type, we just got to say it is image/png. You can actually copy this text, paste it in here, and just change the instances of 512 to 192. And that's all we need for our manifest. We updated the names and we updated the icons. The last thing we have to do is HTTPS. As you remember, we're hosting on Heroku, and Heroku by default does give us HTTPS. The only thing to note is that we do need to redirect any HTTP request over to HTTPS, meaning that if anybody requests our application using HTTP, we should automatically redirect them over to HTTPS. Typically, when you have a server, you do this on the hosting server. Now, Heroku does not have this option for us. They have us do it inside of the application, but they do provide us with some links about what the best libraries to use are. I'm going to provide you with the one that I think is best. The one that I like to use is called ExpressSSLify. So that's what we're going to do. So in order to add it into our application, what we're going to do is we are just going to install that in. So I'm going to use yarn. And if you're using NPM, of course, just use NPM. But I'll say yarn add express-SSLify. Once this is finished installing, we're just going to go back into our server.js and add this new line. So first, what we're going to bring in is enforce, which is what we're going to call what we get back from ExpressSSLify. In order for us to use it, we just simply call use where we do all of our use statements. So down here, we can just say app.use enforce.https. And then we're also going to pass it this object that says trust proto header. Goes to true. The reason we need to do this is because with Heroku runs what's called a reverse proxy. Now, a reverse proxy is something that allows us to forward unencrypted HTTP traffic to the website. So this is really difficult because inside of Heroku, it's going to hide away the headers that originally would tell our application whether or not it's coming from an HTTP request. But luckily for us, there is this proto header property that they append on it as well. So as you can actually read right here, I'm actually realizing that what I explained was inside of this block of text here. It's just something we got to do with Heroku. So with that, we're now able to enforce our HTTPS. So these are all the changes we need. So what we're going to do is just simply add everything in, git commit, updating our code to be PWA compliant. We'll say added service worker, HTTPS, as well as updated manifest. And then we're just going to run git push Heroku master. And in case your application is out of sync with any of the Git repos that you've got so far with your Heroku, because maybe you cloned down my project or something, you can just force your existing Heroku application to switch over. Okay, now that we've finished building, let's actually see our application. So we're just going to run Heroku open. Now, your application may take a little longer because the dyno might need to be spun up, but mine is already live. So what we're going to do now is we are going to run an audit to make sure that our application is progressively compliant. So to check this, just go to your audits tab if you're in Chrome, because by default, Lighthouse is actually brought into it. And here you're going to select the desktop. Let's actually pop this out just because we want to look at everything. So we want to choose desktop. We want to audit performance, progressive web app, and best practices. Accessibility and SEO is not important because that's not the focus of this course. We're going to set no throttling, and clear storage is perfectly fine. So we're just going to run the audit itself. And this might take a couple seconds. And there we go. We got our scores. So we'll see that we have 100 for performance, we have 93 for best practices, and we are progressive web app compliant. So if we scroll down here, we see that we have gotten a check mark for every single one of our sections, and we're now PWA optimized. You can actually check this application inside of your phone. Now, unfortunately, since the making of this course, that add to homepage button is no longer available inside of your Chrome browser on your desktop. But if you have a mobile device, simply go to the link that is your Heroku app, or you can go to mine, and you will get a little tab at the bottom that asks you to add it to your homepage. If you click that, you'll add our application using our favicon to your homepage, and you can open it and browse it like you would a native application, which is what's really, really cool. So that's one great thing about Create React App, and the way that we've set up our project is that we're able to get progressive web application level compliancy so quickly and so easily. Hopefully you enjoyed this section on converting our application over to a PWA. Check it out on your mobile device because it's really cool to see for the first time. With that, that ends our section on progressive web apps, and I'll see you in the next lesson.